Ladies,
Gentlemen,
people,
courting couples,
and all our single folk,
we've got something just for you.
Marriage Mentors.
Sky 99.5 FM Reloaded is the place to be every second and fourth Thursday from 9 p.m.
to 11 p.m.
with yours truly, Mr. and Mrs. Mahon. Join the conversation as we dive deep into the taboo topics around love, marriage, and relationships. Topics like sex and intimacy,
How to live and cleave,
money,
trust issues,
infidelity,
singles in the church,
and more. So join us every second and fourth Thursday from 9 p.m.
to 11 p.m.
right here on Sky 99.5 FM Reloaded.
Feeling jazzy this evening. And of course, a good evening to all of our Sky family once again. It is just about that time, 9:02 and some seconds. Good evening, Mrs. Mahon,
Good evening to you.
and welcome to Marriage Mentors.
It's good to be here.
So it is another edition of Marriage Mentors, and of course, as promised, our topic this evening, the power of words.
Hmm.
Words. You know that saying, maybe may break my bones, but
Words.
can never harm me. It's a lion.
It's a lie. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it's a lie.
It's a lie. You know, a lot of the times, and I kind of want to kick things off by asking this question, not just to you, but to all of our Sky family, those listening, whether you're joining us on the website or you're listening via your radio, whatever it might be, or you're going to be probably viewing this afterward. We want to ask you the question, have you ever, particularly in a relationship, have you ever seen the effects of words, whether good words or bad words? When I say good or bad words, and what was the effect and who it affected? Have you ever seen it, and what was the effect and who it affected when they were released? What's your thoughts?
I've had my experience with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a past relationship, and the person was they had a very strange way of saying things, and everything was an insult.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was to put you down. It's like, I accomplished so much, but you can't do the same.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of working together with me to say, okay, let's help each other climb the ladder. No, it was never like that. It's
Was
always
team.
no.
Competition.
Mm-hmm. So there was always some form of
Put down.
yeah. I remember, and just an example. It's a funny example though. This person, I don't think they passed English. I really don't think that they passed English
Mm-hmm.
in school, because the way that they would say words, sometimes you wonder, it makes you want to go and pick up a dictionary and find the word that they're using, right? They would make up words, but then they would come and tell me my English is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Look at where I'm working now, and he's unemployed.
Oh,
So we'll just leave it there.
yeah, let's leave it right there.
But that was just an example of how stupid and immature it could be. And the only person that it damages is the person on the receiving end, because the person who is giving,
Mm-hmm.
who is saying this stuff, a lot of times, yes, they could be unaware,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are times when they would just do it um, deliberately and probably based on what they would have been taught growing up. So they just pass it on, pass on what they know. Yeah, so I had a lot of forgiving to do. I forgave. I forgave.
And for those of you desirous of joining the conversation, you can send your messages via WhatsApp to 333-9950 or give us a quick call 625-2759. That's 625-2759. We're talking about the power of words, particularly as it relates to marriage. But yes, it cascades or it can be applied to any kind of relationship anywhere, whether it be friendship, parent to child, um, whether niece, whatever level of family, friend, co-workers, it can be applied. Words, the power of words remain the same. Um, they affect our relationships or how we interact the same kind of way, depending on the kind of word that is spoken or released or communicated between any two or more persons.
I remember going through the same thing with two teachers in particular. That was in primary school. Actually, three. One was the principal at the time, and before that, in different classes, and was I think only three teacher, and then another standard three teacher and a standard four teacher. So it's different years that have gone through the same thing, and it's so funny that I remember Anna was telling us a few days ago that she would have gone through some stuff in second year with her teacher, and she's and it's it's so amazing how they remember word for word up to this age. They would still remember, and she said she got so nervous she was sharpening a pencil and she didn't even realize she was sharpening her finger instead of the pencil. No, and if you really look at it, it has you in a state of mind where you can't function. It makes you feel less of a person. It's and when I say it's based on the negative side of it, there is the positive side to it. But based on the experience I would have had, a lot would have been on the negative side. It's only in my adulthood I started experiencing the positive side. Not much, but I'm grateful for what I got and what I have been getting and still getting. Pretty I get some more.
Yeah, those they somehow stick, but
Yeah.
getting past them is a must.
Mm-hmm.
Is a must if you want to and I think this particular topic is fitting, especially as we're coming out of last time when we dealt with apologizing, forgiving,
Yeah.
letting go. Being mindful also, heading further beyond that point when we are practicing forgiving, when we're practicing apologizing, when we're practicing letting go, we now have to be very conscious of how we communicate inside of relationships. The power of words, how you use your words, they are very important because they can either make or break whatever relationship it is. We have a voice note here.
Lynden and Adana, I have some hurtful words were said to me from a past relationship. And that person always believed that he was the right one and I was the stupid one. And when it come down to brass tacks, I was the right one all along. Realized that in later. You understand? But it was never no. When I get vexed, I used to stay as it is there. You understand? Because you can't be telling me hurtful words all the time. As a person, I don't keep quiet when somebody challenging me. I just have to challenge them back. You understand? Some hurtful words that I always have me looking like I was the stupid one and the wrong one. He always is the sensible one. So that used to cause a lot of conflict because I could not stay quiet. I used to hard was to say what's on my mind. When he telling me them say truthful words. You understand? It's not a nice thing at all, at all, at all.
I get you. I totally get you. Yeah, yes. Um, the reality of it is that the more it's piled on, it it begins to shape your relationship, whatever level it is, whether it's in marriage or work relationship. That kind of communication begins to shape
Yeah.
um, the nature or the atmosphere or the culture of how you communicate. And it takes some doing to undo or break the habit. If you practice speaking a certain way too often and too long, any habit, it becomes ingrained. Um, and thereby you will end up with some trouble.
Yeah.
And let me use this as an example in terms of parenting. If you, as a parent, you have gotten your children accustomed to very loud, boisterous communication, right? Every time they do something, you bawl in. I was at someone's home recently, and there were a lot of children, and I was just there observing. Well, I got the opportunity. I wasn't there to observe. I got the opportunity to observe while being there. And it was a really sad state of affairs, honestly, um, to see so many things um, define us within the atmosphere. That some of the children lacked love, some of the children were the favorites, some of the children were ill treated, some of the children just did not want to be there. A lot of communication, unsaid communication, apart from the noise, was happening there. And there was one in particular, um, he was being roughed up and stuff like that. And you see the child just one more word again and he was crying. And he would do everything to try to escape the moment and change his environment, but he couldn't go far. So when he moved from the bedroom and he got in trouble there, he went to the living room. And then he got in trouble there, and then he tried to go somewhere else and he got in trouble. And then he just started saying, I want to go by my mommy. And I said to myself, Lord, what is this? And I know I'm using the context of parenting here, but what we're really pulling out is the power of words and how dangerous they can be. When you have that kind of communication, that kind of turbulent communication, if we could put it that way, for example, between an adult and a child, um, if you do that at home and that becomes the norm, when you go out, what's going to happen? Then you'll be expected to bowl behind the child. And that's the time you, as the adult, don't want to bowl behind the child because you're studying, trying to save face, right?
And the child will not respond.
The child will not respond.
They don't know that side.
They don't know you like that. It's like, who is this stranger? So if you're accustomed bowling, ball when you go out, please. You want to get their attention, please ball when you go out. No, I'm saying that very jokingly, but the unfortunate thing is that is the state of affairs with some people, and even inside of a marriage, that's the kind of communication that they have. They lose the sensitivity to what they say and how it affects the other person. They communicate very rough. They just say stuff, and whatever happens, however, as the old heads would say, how it hang and swing.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we want to consciously undo. Now, there's so many scriptures that the Bible has given. I think Proverbs 25:11. Proverbs 25 had a couple scriptures that talked about the words that we use. James as well. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. Still tongue keeps a wise head. I think Paul in what scripture was that? He was talking about the tongue is the hardest muscle team. And so many others. A gentle answer turns away wrath, another proverb. And we know all of these things, but a lot of the times it's the hardest thing to master. We're able to master so many other things, but the hardest thing to master is our mouths. And a lot of the times we feel as though we have to respond to everything. We don't. And that in itself is activating the principle or living inside of the proverb that says a still tongue keeps a wise head. And I'll add to that, empty vessels make the most noise. So that's the time you want to consider. Stop and consider, and not just react, but respond. Because a lot of us tend to do that. We react, and we're not communicating. We're just reacting to whatever was done, and we're not thinking about the damage that we're first incurring on ourselves. Because yes, what we say hurts the other person, but when you think about what Jesus said, out of the abundance the mouth speaks. So if you're speaking damage from one person to the other, note I said one person to the other, right? You're already damaged. Consider that you're in a damaged position and you're now communicating damage to someone else. But it's not just the person that you're talking to. Take, for instance, in a marriage where there's children around, they're also affected. Right? So you have damage, then speaking to damage, but also indirect damage and impact that is going to happen when anyone else is within earshot. And talk about the compounded embarrassment as well. Whether someone who is in earshot, they may not be directly impacted by it, but they'll feel bad. They'll be embarrassed for you, but also feel bad knowing that this is how things go in your marriage, in your relationship, whatever relationship it is. In the work environment, we might think, well, that person is the boss. They could do whatever they want, and the person who was balled up at or spoken down to or embarrassed with harsh and painful words, they wouldn't say anything because they don't want to lose their job. And that is the toss-up now that you're left with. I ain't going to say nothing because I want to lose my job.
But then that person carries that hurt. They take it home.
They take it home.
To their children, to their spouses, to their family, whoever they interact with outside of the workplace. Even the co-workers going to get it too.
And what if the other environments that they go to isn't helping them heal? It's going to make it worse. So you think about, you think about the kind of environment you want to create at home, so that when any one of you go out into the world and you have to face that kind of turbulence, when you get back home, it has to be a place of peace. It has to be a place of rest. It has to be a place of healing. So therefore, these are the reasons why you want to cultivate an atmosphere of loving speech, of appreciative speech, of caring speech. I think I'm jumping ahead of myself here, which is what normally happens, right?
Oh.
So let's look at 5 types of powerful words, right? Let's go to the question before. Good night to you, Mr. and Mrs. Blessings. How are you both doing? All right. So we're talking about the power of words. Yeah, that's our topic this evening. All right. I think we have. If you have someone who always brings you down, they don't see their faults, how to stay away from them, even though you want to stay far away from them. Even though you clarify that for me. How do you stay away from them, even though you want to stay far away from them, or you don't want to stay far away from them? Clarify that. When you say the environment, they don't see the fault and how to stay away from them or the environment. When you say the environment, what do you mean? Don't worry, be gone anonymous.
And again, if it is you would like to jump in on the conversation, we're looking at the power of words, and this is Marriage Mentors. Feel free to jump in at any point with your question or your contribution to the topic. And the numbers are 333-9950. That's for WhatsApp messages. Or if you want to give us a call, feel free to do so. 625-2759.
All right. I think you have to give me a little more context so that I understand the scenario. Yeah? Give me a little more context so that I understand the scenario. So these are the things that you want to cultivate. You want to be very deliberate in cultivating a kind of atmosphere, so that in the event, well, not just that in the event, the world is a very harsh place, let's be real. And when you go outside, there's no telling what can happen, what people say, how they feel, whether they care about what they say to you or not. The world is a harsh place, and where you do have control, or where you have most control, first is over yourself, and then secondly, your environment at home. You can help cultivate that quicker than you would out in the world in a very open environment. So you want to take deliberate action first in controlling and being responsible for yourself, and then being responsible for your home environment and culture. So ensure that that's where you begin, not try to do it in work, and home is not really your place of peace, because you'll be running from home to go to work, and that's problems. Just imagine a husband, he has a family at home, but he refuses to build or cultivate that environment at home, and work now becomes his place of peace. How many times we've seen situations like that?
Too many.
Okay.
Too many.
Right? I mean, once I got mad and angry when they are around me, but I'm just being myself because I respect them.
So it's a kind of pretending thing happening.
All right.
Out of respect.
Out of respect, you don't want. Well, I think the bigger issue there is not just running away from it, because again, you want to to be deliberate in trying to create a different kind of atmosphere, because I'm assuming the environment is home, and that in itself has to be your place of peace. It cannot, and you have every right to fight for peace at home. You have every right. Your home should not be a place of war. Fight for peace, and when I say peace, not just throwing things over your shoulder. Whenever you're doing pottery, right, and you want to think about your environment like this, whenever I remember when we were doing pottery in secondary school, that was one of the things we got the chance to do. So we had to go and dig clay and bring the clay to school, take out all the fine stone and everything else in it. Work actually make the clay formable and smooth. And then we put it on the wheel and spin it and form it and stuff like that. And when it didn't come out, what you had to do? You had to squash it and start all over. If it didn't dry, you had to squash it and start it all over. Or if you carry it to school and it wasn't done properly and it dried, it's either you break it or throw it away. Or what a normal potter would do, they'll crush it back down and wet it and mold it all over again.
Start all over
again. So a lot of the times people consider peace as avoidance. Peace isn't avoidance. Sometimes peace actually is addressing things for resolution, coming to a point of resolution, resolving things. Here comes that word again. People have difficulty with confronting issues, right? When you think confronting, also attach with it resolution, because it's not about creating a battle. That's not what confrontation is. Think resolution, coming to an understanding, coming to a place of resolve, fixing the issue. That's what you want to do. Confrontation is not about, well, I'm going to get a piece of my mind. That is not confrontation. That is bacchanal, right? And as I always like to say, when you give them peace of your mind, you're not smarter for it. Because the things you would have said in giving them peace of your mind, you would be less educated than you were when you started. I'll let you figure that out, right? It wouldn't be as smart as you were before you started, right? So think resolution when you are confronting an issue. So whenever you're dealing with things, you want to come to the point of fixing. How do we fix this? Because as I said before, you want to fight for peace in your home. You want to fight for peace in your family. You want to fight. Those are good things to fight for when it comes to your family. And as best as possible, get there quickly. Yes, some family members, they just don't want it. They don't care about that. But if you can create better alliances at home, it's better for you. Because at the end of the day, if, let's take for instance, let's look at a husband and wife and they're living with their in-laws. For whatever reason, there is tension between the couple and the in-laws, right? And it's now creating or interfering with the stability or the atmosphere, the culture, the calmness of the couple. Who is their allies in this regard? It's the both of them. They have to stand with each other, not necessarily their in-laws. And if you and your in-laws cannot see eye to eye, then move. and create your own space. Yeah, move and create your own space where you now can have control. And when I say control, your ability to manage your environment, manage your surroundings and the kind of communication. If you, move and go somewhere else. Create those opportunities. Don't see it as a full stop that this, where you are, is the be all and end all. There might be some steps that you have to take in order to get there, but make the move. Make the move. Um, and it's not that you that's that's not your first option. That tends to be your last option, right? That's kind of your last resort, because what you want to do is mend relationships.
Yeah.
If there is no opportunity to mend the relationship, and I say no opportunity, you've explored every option and the other party has decided, well, I just don't like your hair, I don't want, you are wrong me, I don't want no peace with you, then you have no other choice. Create your own opportunity to go elsewhere. Yeah? Your own opportunity. After you have done everything else in that regard, create your own opportunity to go elsewhere. Because what is most important is your personal peace and peace of mind, particularly, especially when you're building culture in your marriage. Especially when you're building culture in your marriage. Once something is said, you can't take it back. That's why we have to think before we open our mouths. Us women don't understand that. Someone says, well, over the years, I'm learning to talk less. And if I do speak, I'll let them know, my eldest son, dad, and my mother, that it hurts me. But I realize no matter what I say, it doesn't touch their conscience as to what I'm saying. So I just stop talking or cuss them out for them to stop tongue lashing me in the most disrespectful and hurtful way. Again, let's, and in no way that's I'm pointing fingers to anyone. But let's look at the principle here. At every juncture, your first line, or the first thing you have to protect, is your own heart. Yeah? The first person to protect is your own heart, yourself. Because, and I say because, if your lines of defense are, and I say defense, meaning your lines of defense against your personal peace is diminished, interrupted, broken, how can you defend that of someone else? And I'm saying this from the perspective of, you cannot export what you don't produce. If you've lost your own peace, how are you going to protect the peace of someone else? Therefore, regain your own peace first before you even try. And I think that a lot of the times is the challenge in terms of dealing with persons, where they too have, they push the limits and they've lost the respect. A lot of the times they tend to read off of someone else, right? They read when you've lost all respect even for yourself, when they know that you're being triggered by what they say. The less that they see it affect you, because you're focusing on maintaining your personal inner peace, your personal state of mind, your spiritual stability in the midst of it. The more that they see that it affects you less they have to say, because they realize that it's not affecting you. I remember one of my older brothers used to tell us, like, if we're doing something, if we're doing something, and this irked me so much in my childhood. I'm like, at one point I wanted to bust his head when he said it. We would be teasing one another. And when he feel like he wants to stop teasing, um, and we as the younger ones, all right, well, oh, we gain we chance now. You was doing wickedness all the time. We gain our chance now. And one of the things he used to tell us was, when you're feeling stupid, stop. That used to irritate me. That in itself. Now he's going along with his, and now you're stuck with a conundrum. Okay. You're stuck with a conundrum. Do I continue? Or do I stop and feel stupid? Make my stupidity evident. And a lot of the times we have to act like that. We don't even have to say it because we may provoke the person, which it did to me. But we have to begin to hold that position in managing our personal peace and not saying anything, not reacting. Because our response, not saying anything is also a response. Not taking them on is also a response. Not reacting is a response. So therefore, the words that, if someone throws hurtful words at you, not reacting is also an intelligent way. And continuing to work on your personal place of stability and peace is also a good, intelligent way to respond that communicates to them that when you feeling stupid, you'll stop. And that in itself would cause the person now to even shift from doing what they were doing to now being thinking about, because it happened with me. I'm now thinking, I'm not thinking about what I was doing, I'm now thinking about whether or not I feel stupid. That's exactly what's going to happen, whether or not I feel stupid. So I am stuck with, do I continue because I want to show how long I could do this foolishness for, or show that I'm stupid and stop? And honestly, it irked me. But what it did was, even when my brother started with his teasing, I wouldn't take him on, because I don't want to hear when you feeling stupid stuff. So therefore, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
It produced within me a sense of maturity far beyond that, to recognize the isms and schisms before they start, so that I don't even have to hear that. So I don't feel weird when I had to come up against his older taunting, and me as a younger one, and stuff like that. And then when he stopped and he moving on, I am still teasing and still taunting, and I feeling all right. Well, I get my turn now. And he's leaving me with the fighting statement, when you feeling stupid stuff. And a lot of the times we have to hold that resolve, that we become more mature and not allow the immaturity to propel us forward. And then we are left with that kind of conundrum.
But isn't this a form of abuse
What?
from the person who is giving? Even though you said the better response is to not have a response, right? And work on you. But if it is someone does something to you and has that particular point of view, when they say, okay, when you're feeling stupid, stop, right? Don't you think that is a form of abuse? And I'm not saying it's where a form of abuse is saying those words.
No.
It's
In
just
terms
having
of
that stance.
having the stance, it now provokes maturity. That what you're doing is irrelevant. right? It provokes. It's not necessarily abuse to say, well, when you're feeling stupid, stop. Because what you're now telling the person, the perpetrator, what you're doing is now of no use. That's the reason why my brother would have said it. My taunting really wasn't doing him anything. Because he know how to switch off and have his peace.
But that's what I say. So when they are doing it, it's okay. But when you respond,
Right.
it's an issue.
So the day I did not take him on in at first when he started teasing, and I told him, when you feeling stupid, stop. That was the day he handled himself. Because that is the statement or the attitude that says to the perpetrator, check yourself. And I'm not saying that you go wrong telling people, well, when you're feeling stupid, stop. That's not what I'm saying. But what you want to now do is have a moment where, first of all, you trigger that within yourself, right? To not be bothered, first of all, by what everybody else has to say. Yes, words, they do have an effect. But what we want to master, because the only person really that we can master is ourselves and our own discipline, right? We can't master someone else's discipline. That's lauding, right? So therefore, the person that we can get under control is us.
Yeah.
So thereby, the more we get ourselves under control, the less effect someone else has on us. What they say, what they do has less effect on us. And how we respond will be, and I'm not saying react, how we respond will be either to trigger thought because we have maintained our personal control. It may not be when you're feeling stupid, stop, but it might be something like, you think that making sense?
So you have a more mature response too. Okay.
So we have to think those things through. It may not, because I think the challenge is, the challenge always is knowing that we have a button that someone else can press. Right? Knowing that we have a button that someone else can press. And if we no longer have those buttons that they can press, it's not that we're eliminating their ability to press the button. It's eliminating the buttons. If you have someone who loves to pop pimples, no, it's not the desire to pop pimples, it's the pimples that are there. If you clean your colon and your skin and everything and get rid of the pimples, there's no more pimple popping to happen. Right? So therefore, the issue is, it's not just the action of the person, the perpetrator, but it's the environment or the condition of the recipient. A lot of the time, someone has now the ability to play on our insecurities or some issue that we hold, that we're carrying around, some soft spot. A lot of the times, person's reaction is because of a soft spot.
Yeah.
Because what I realized is, my brother saying that statement to me, I didn't like to feel stupid. So that was my soft spot. So I learned immediately, hey, let's not get that happening again. Let's produce maturity that wouldn't even get you in a situation where he has to say it.
God knows. God knows why he allowed me to be the first man in it.
Why?
No. No. No.
Look, mistaken. Let's stop. Well, growing up on the streets, when I say that, I mean When my dad died, I was basically learning how to navigate life. When I moved back by my mother, was licks for everything. I was 7 months pregnant and I knew what she was like, but I had no other choice. At the moment, long story short, seeing what I gathered from others while growing up, I knew what I wanted, but I couldn't express it because I always told him I'm stupid, a drunkard like my dad.
I still
Oh,
I'm
told,
stupid.
right? You were told those things, and in my years, even though I've tried my best with my children not to be what my grandmother and mother said to me, it's like everything was in vain. But knowing the truth and God, I'm still working on speaking positive things about myself and to forgive and let go of the hurt is my prayer. Very good. Very good. Before I say that, let me finish reading the thing. Have you encountered people where no matter what you say or do isn't good in their sight, even if you hear 5 positives, you get 20 negatives, and you just don't want that conversation with them? Um, the thing is that people will always be people. People will always be people. And I'm glad that you're able to even distinguish those things. People will always be people. And it doesn't matter what kind of past you would have had. Um, I think the most painful thing is not allowing it to reach you where you are. And when I say not allowing it, what they have to see. Um, and I say this simply because a lot of the things that would have happened, it has to be that we've forgiven ourselves, and first of all we made first peace with it, and that we're not fighting against the thing that we're trying not to achieve. And case in point, you're fighting against the image of what happened in your past and what they're probably now trying to throw back in your face in terms of being like your father. Have you, and when I say have you actually come to the place where you've forgiven the even the possibilities of yourself resembling that? And are you at the place where you are trying not to be like that? Or are you building deliberately something else? Because they're two very different things. The more effort we place on trying not to be something, and less effort we're placing on going in a different direction, we don't know where we'll end up if we're placing more energy on trying not to become. Because a lot of the times, what you focus on is what you will gravitate towards and become, right? And I've seen it many a times where someone would say, I don't want to be like this, I don't want to be like that, I don't want to be grow up or come out this way, I don't want to come out like that. But we or them or the person, the individual, isn't sure of what they want to be. And if you're not sure of what you want to be and you're not putting particular things in place and actually taking those steps in the direction that you want to be or go in, what you will end up doing is placing all the emphasis on what you don't want to be. And the more you look at something, is the more you become that thing. And no matter how much you fight against it, you gravitate towards it and you see yourself becoming exactly what you don't want to become. Now, Therein lies a principle. Look at what you want to become and practice what you want to become. Stop thinking about what you don't want to be. Pay no mind to it. Pay no mind. And I say pay no mind, simply pay no mind. Create, as I said to somebody, create distance. I said this to someone last week. Create distance between yourself and the negative thing. Create distance between yourself and the negative thing. And I'm not particularly talking about the person, the issue. Create distance between yourself and the negative issue. Because the more distance you create between yourself and the issue, the less you look like it. Because at some point you'll be able to look back and say, I'm not like that anymore, but I real change, boy. And it will be a sense of achievement you will have. Now, we're talking about the power of words. This is thought life we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the words that you say, it's the words that live inside of you. That's what we're talking about here. It's the words that are happening on the inside of your mind and what you keep telling yourself and the inner conversation that you're having about you. Those things change how you view the world, and what you say will come out. Because scripture is very true. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So if you're filled with that kind of inner communication of the negative things, if you're filled with it, those are the things that will come out. So you want to create distance between you and the negative thing. So therefore your speech will change. What you think about will change because you're now focusing entirely on something else. And when you look back after time, you're going to realize, hey, I can, and this is where we're now going to see the actuality of letting some things go. We always hear the term, I forgive, but I forget. The more distance you have away from something, you'll forget it. You'll no longer be able to tell what it was. There's some things I cannot remember for the life of me with things that got me upset because I'm quick to create distance between me and that negative thing. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. Let's create some distance between me and it. I want to see that thing getting smaller and smaller. That thing must see my back getting smaller and smaller all the time because I'm moving fast away from it. Yeah, so you want to create distance between you and that negative thing. Right? All right, let's get some more. Susanna, glad to have you. Someone is asking, if your partner said that you are being stupid or hurtful things, plus it's always repeats in your mind continuously till you cry yourself to sleep, is that okay? No, it's not okay. That's actually the practice of keeping that negative thing where you are. Yeah? It's what I just said actually fits right smack dab into that particular situation. Yes, it's hurtful. But what benefit do you get of replaying it back? None. I'll answer it for you. None. All you're going to do is make what happened, how you felt, everything that happened in the moment, repeat it again and again and again and again. And that actually is not going to create distance between where you are and the thing when it happened. What you're going to do, remember that term we coined, that phrase we coined in Saturday morning, wake up and shake up, Jesus brought forward. Right. You don't want to be bringing the negative things forward. Leave them where they are. Leave them where they are. Leave them where they are. Create distance between you and it. Some people find difficulty in bouncing back from some things. I have one friend, very resilient guy. When I tell you, resilient guy. He's been through some situations that I just said to myself. I said to myself, I don't know, I really don't know. But he's resilient. That guy bounces back. And I think his ability to do it has been tied to creating distance between him and the issue. Him and the issue. Putting it behind. Clearing your mind and your heart from it. The quicker you get to do that, the easier it is for you to one thing clearly and move forward. Some persons, something happened and that sours their entire day. They're not able to separate something. So something happened at the office, they take it and carry it home. Something happened home, they carry it to the office, and everybody know something happened between you and your wife, or something happened with your children. It just sour everything. That's the first thing of someone I know that tells me that person has no personal discipline. No personal discipline. If something happened with you home and your drive or your commute to work, you have not created physical distance between you and it, something is wrong. Something is wrong. It shows a measure of indiscipline and a lack of maturity. Because people in work don't care about that. First of all, your job has nothing to do with it. And vice versa. What happened in work has nothing to do with home. Leave it there. When you get back home, later on, you'll be able to face it with fresh eyes, a fresh mind, fresh understanding, because you've created distance between yourself and the issue. But because some persons have not practiced doing that, they never leave the issue. So they carry it with them wherever they go. And what they're now doing is accumulating things. So they take work pressure and carry it home. And then the next day they carry back work pressure, and the work pressure from that they carried home yesterday, they bring it back. So there's no separation. No separation. You've ever heard some person saying, on my drive home I was detoxing? That's what's supposed to happen. That's separation from the issue. Leave those things behind. Wives and husbands, when your spouse is leaving to go to work, be mindful that you're not taking pressure from home and sending them to work with it, because you want them to be able to function very wholesome when they get there. And if you're coming back home, be mindful that you're now not bringing back those things home to your spouse. Leave those things behind. Create distance between those issues. The power of words. The power of words. They help create a particular kind of environment. All right. Continuation of this particular account. I was already a heavy drinker at 15 whilst pregnant. So for 20 years I was drinking to numb the pain, but only for a year now. I'm not much into the drinking, and I'm working on me. Lynden, for me, it's like being around them. Living in the same house is like I can't get that positive effect I need. It's like he is up in my face, or my mother will come up or call me too. So help me here. All right, I do understand that while you are creating distance between you and the thing, you and the issue, that they remind you of it. I too was in a situation like that, where it was in my rearview mirror, but it wasn't in theirs. And for some time, I had to, because for them, they did not see, the persons they did not see, because again, it's your process, it's not theirs, really. You are the one dealing with the issue. You have that to deal with, and then they treating you like you're actively um, within the situation while you're creating distance. And for a time, I would suggest that you create distance. This point and in this particular situation, yes, you need to manage your your space. Manage your space. Sometimes we do have to make some distance between people and us because they haven't to allowed themselves to reset or come up to speed with where we are. And it's not a permanent thing. It's not a permanent thing. Um, Sometimes distance away allows them to reset because some people, honestly, I don't know, but not that I don't know. There are reasons why they would want to bring it up all the time. Some people just to get away from their own issues, they prefer to look at other people's issues, right? And again, the power of words. They have their own issues, but they chose not to deal with it. So because mine's tougher to deal with, is better I heckle somebody else about this, so that it kind of deflects or keeps the attention off of me. So create distance so you could focus on you and allow them to deal with them because they'll have less to talk about for a time. Because it will be like this. I remember some years ago, and when I say some years ago, a couple years ago, I remember for just around your birthday, right? Um, a couple of my nieces, well, nieces and nephews came and they spent some time by us and took our pictures, took our pictures. And 2 years later, we saw the same nieces. And it's like, it's completely different people. Now, we would have seen them in pictures, but not face to face. But 2 years later, it's like different people. And sometimes, yes, distance allows people to recognize your growth, right? And that's why I say for a time. So you don't delete them from your mind, cut them off entirely and stuff like that, blot them out of what I called it last time, blot them out of your personal book of life or something like that. Something I called it last time. Um, you don't want to do that. But yes, sometimes you do have to create distance between, while creating distance between you and the issue, create some distance and time between you and the persons that aren't helping your situation. Sometimes you have to do that. And in this case, yes, I would recommend it. It's tough decisions, but I would recommend it. Suzanne and Shogonas, good evening to you. Glad to have you with us. Yeah, I know that would be nicer. Yeah, but in your case, you have to make some decision. No, I'm not targeting anybody. I'm not targeting anybody. Don't go blotting anybody out of your life. Sometimes we want to do that. Sometimes we want to do that. But we make every excuse as to why not. Yeah, we want to do that, but that'll be the easy thing, to blot people out. Yeah, that'll be the easy thing. All right, just about 13 after the hour, 10 o'clock. We're just a little way, halfway over, a little more than halfway through. Yes, we had a question. Where? All right, I'm trying because I imagine Okay, I haven't called her since, and she doesn't even call to ask if I am dead or alive. All right. I would ask at this point, who created the distance, you or the person? Um, and are you achieving the reason for the distance? Yeah, I'll ask that. Hello.
Hello, good night to the Mahon,
Hi.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Good evening to you as well.
Yeah, I've been listening to your program for quite a while. I enjoy the, the way you present the whole topic and the discourse. And there are one or two things that I don't fully agree with.
Mhm.
But just to add to your topic, I feel strongly that the, God had formed the man from the ground, right?
Mhm.
That's where I get the word human from. Humus man, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And then he created the woman from the side of the man.
Mhm.
So there's a structure in the home. Christ is over the man, and the man is over the woman and the family. And anything that goes wrong in the home, I believe God holds the man responsible.
And I agree with you on that. Mhm.
Yeah, because he 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 has anointed the man to create the culture that we were talking about, and it must be protected.
Mhm.
See, because it is the man is guided by God, and he provided that he is in a relationship with God as he ought to be, reading the Bible, listening to the Spirit, getting the instruction, and then passing it on to the family. Right.
Mhm.
The part that I have a little, well, I can't say I fully disagree with you, but I think it's important that we put distance between any event that would threaten the culture of the home.
Mhm.
And that distance must not be one from memory, to say. It must be one from the sting of what happened,
Mhm.
so that you could recall what happened, but it doesn't have an effect on you. You sleep well. It has no effect on the person,
Mhm.
right? Simply because if we allow it the other way, and that can be allowed the other way too, depending on the nature of the event. Because some things are very petty.
Mhm.
You don't need to remember that. But other things that threaten the culture of the family, there is need to to, to, to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
You see? And from that perspective, then the man can now find some strategy between himself. Well, he get downloaded from God, of course,
Mhm.
and implement it, right? Because these events are not just haphazardly occurring. It is strategic. We have a real devil, a defeated foe, of course.
Mhm.
And we function not towards victory. We function from victory because the victory is already won on the cross.
That's right.
I recall a scripture in Numbers, and scriptures in the Old Testament. I always say the Bible is written for us, but not everything in the Bible is written to us. We have to be cognizant of the time period in which it was written and what it was addressed and the context of how it was written. So an example of that would be like the children of Israel had sin in the camp in the wilderness, and they were bitten by snakes.
Mhm.
And then they complained to Moses. Moses went to God, and God gave him the instruction. Build a bronze serpent on a cross, and whenever they get bitten, let them look at it.
Mhm.
Well, that scripture is prophetic, because if you read in John 3:14 to 16, we like John 3:16 plenty. We like that a lot. But it really starts from 14.
Mhm.
As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. What they did in the wilderness, they looked to the cross.
Mhm.
So these events that come to us, we look to the cross for answers. We reminisce on the effect and effectiveness of what it is, the efficacy of Calvary's cross, the potency of his blood and his resurrection. Because words, as you say, are spirit, right? When I say so, it can be manipulated and used as leverage for evil spirits to function. So you go through an event, maybe in the marriage or in the home, and words fly left, right, and center without anybody thinking. And it only enhances, gives strength to what. And as we know, strong marriages build strong homes and families.
Mm-hmm.
Strong families build strong communities, and strong communities build strong nations. So that's why the family is being attacked. And these days, the family is being attacked through not only media, but technology especially. There's a drive to push the word of God away from our future generations and replace it with AI and quantum computers, right? So, so these are the things that a father, a husband ought to be cognizant of, and really put down your foot hard against things like that. Not only maybe you have to be careful with your words these days on the phone or whatever, whenever you're talking, right? But in prayer, you are safe. You know, once you get into your prayer, I try now to pray every throughout the day, but there are specific times that I go into the closet and I discuss things with God, right? And as it is in those prayer closet times that you deal with situations that you perceive that could come up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you preemptively strike that down there, because we pray from victory and not to victory. So wrapping up now, yes, words are important. You know, we have to be careful of labeling and naming and pointing fingers. Whenever you point a finger, it has 3 pointing back at you. But the man is held responsible, and God will hold the man responsible for what happens in the home and for future generations. This is why I say this cancel culture that's taking place now. Everything had a cancel because this was bad and that was bad. Those who are not cognizant of the history are doomed to repeat it. And if the future generations have no knowledge of our past and our history, it becomes very easy and vulnerable for those who want to emulate the, the colonialism in a different way, and they're more effective now because they have technology. So this is my 2 cents. I'm thankful that you allowed me this time.
All right. Thanks so much. Even though I'm not, you've more or less said the same things that I was saying, and some of the things that I do hold, but didn't mention. Yeah. Thanks so much for your contribution.
Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome. I'm not sure what was didn't to agree with, but what we were getting at is not that we somehow forget.
Mm-hmm.
What I was saying is that we create distance between us and the negative situation, or the negativity as we termed it, so that when we look back, because, and I agree with him that you want to separate yourself from this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you create the distance between yourself and the issue, then you're able to look back without this thing. So just to answer your question and to clarify what my perspective is, because the moment you rehearse it, it happened yesterday, rehearse it today, and you rehearse it tomorrow, you bring this thing forward. You've never really separated yourself and given yourself the space to heal emotionally from it and to recover emotionally. It's not that you would just automatically forget, but you want to now not have it playing over, so that you're not in the place where you're revisiting the hurt, you're revisiting this thing, you're revisiting everything negative that came with the event. If you're not doing that, then you will bring it back. You will bring the thing forward, as I mentioned. Jesus brought forward. You don't want to bring the hurt forward. So that is the reason why you're creating distance, just to clarify, right?
That was a response to what you would have asked.
Mm-hmm. To be honest,
who created the distance?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You were the one creating the distance, since she was making false hope and broke it a lot. A lot of things for me, she wasn't there for me, graduation or anything. So I imagine calling her just to make a mother-daughter relationship, quote unquote, better. She doesn't even want that from me. So that's why I tried my best to keep my distance away from her. Okay. Um, when you say now that you're trying to make it better, um, let me ask: have you achieved why you created the distance in the first place? All right. I think you need to now sit and revisit why the distance was created in the first place and what steps you now want to take while you're creating the distance. Um, and it's not for the purpose of just because you want to cut off the person. If you are, and that's why I said, if in creating distance from the issue and creating distance from a person, it's two different things. Um, if the person cannot let go of the issue, then that's something else. If you can't create, if the person cannot create, as if they can't separate themselves from the issue, meaning that you can't have um, resolve, then that is an instance where you have to create some distance between yourself, the issue, and yourself and the person for some time. Yeah, particularly the person for some time, because you have to create the space for yourself to grow. Yeah, you have to do that. How do I create distance, seeing that the position I'm in most times is just to come in the room, pray, trying to read my Bible, but most times it's like when they speak, I can't concentrate on anything. It's like a movie in my head. Um, you living with them? My recommendation is don't. And while that might be a simple answer, because yes, you do need to create some distance. While that might be a simple answer, it would take some action, would take some planning, um, and work toward it. Because you in this particular instance, you would want to work through some things. Yeah, work through some things on your own, and I say on your own for yourself, developing your own personal maturity, separating yourself from those things playing over in your own mind. Because what you want is the room to develop, um, and you won't have that room to develop in this present environment. Hi, Megs. Pauline, good evening to you. Um, all right, all right, no problem. Yes, Denise. Yeah, I agree with you, Suzanne and Siobhan. I do agree. Um, your advice is so profound. I'm going through a situation for over 10 years now. It's only very recent that I decided to put distance between me and the person causing the situation. Also, I'm in a previous situation I was in where I met with a wall of silence, even through my ex-husband was the wrong one. It was like trying to punish me for exposing the situation. I did put distance between him and myself, and it gave me peace. The first situation is between, okay, who wants to stay in her room while I shoulder the responsibilities of home and myself. Um, so I do agree where you would And I do commend the transparency that you've shared, and I want to also encourage you to talk with her through that predicament, because this is where you both have to work as a team, simply because part of your experience will help shape her future, and if she doesn't view your experience correctly, it could be damaging. So walking together in wisdom through it, and I say in wisdom, um, not being afraid of mentioning the mistakes and the shortfalls and everything else, because she's old enough um, to hear it from a mature perspective. Um, that will help her appreciate, one, the journey, but also have a vantage point in even navigating her own life situations. Yeah. Hmm. Um, I'm 50, built the house together, so how do I've tried moving out, but it never worked out. So I'm just like a sitting duck now with all that's happened over the years. My children is on the same disrespectful path. I always own up to my experiences, but they don't, and always puts me down. How could I, how I could or should have been. Um, at least for the children, um, it's sad that they've joined forces mm, to in your beatdown party. And when if I could put it any better way, um, that they've joined in lifting a hand or voice against you. Because it's easy for children to say, well, mommy or daddy should have done this way or done this that way. We weren't there for all of the ups and the downs, so we don't have the full picture. Um, yes, I probably, not probably, I would have had my own perspectives as well. But for what I was there for, those were the things that I spoke to my parents about. What I wasn't there for, I have no bearing on. And yes, Mr. Mahon Senior, you can't erase the past. Um, you have to live through it, and you have to move forward. Um, there are some things that, yeah, your children, they they shouldn't be a part of, and unfortunately, um, in your particular case, your mom would have gotten involved in bringing them on board to become your enemy, which is rather unfortunate, I must say again. Um, but in this case, for your peace of mind, you've got to do something. Yeah, create separation, some separation. Mr. Mahon Senior says you can't erase events, but you manage how you deal with the effect of the event. I would say building resilience, because not in every case that you can avoid the particular individual. True, you can't avoid. Um, in the case of a marriage, you can't avoid it. In the case of a close relationship, you can't avoid it. So therefore, as a team, that is now where both of you are required to work through it. Um, and for couples in particular, this is where I recommend counseling. These are the times that counseling is very helpful to, one, getting you both back on the same page, because what has happened here, um, is that you're not on the same page and your communication is now aimed at one another. This is why words aren't helping. Your words aren't really helping. So in cases like that, where you have a couple, this is where you would want to have a huddle, if you could call it that, or you go to counseling, sit down and and you're not going to counseling to point fingers at each other. It's the time where you now want to learn how to reset. Again, you are confronting for resolution, and resolution doesn't go with I'm going with my guns blazing because this one was wrong or that one was wrong. You're not going in playing the blame game. So if it is you realize that you need counseling and that you have the demeanor of, well, I'm going pointing fingers at him or I'm going pointing fingers at her, then you're going with the wrong motive. You're going to stress out yourselves and probably the counselor too. So please settle those issues before you want to go in order to bring yourselves back on track. And in most cases, if not all, both of you are off course. Good evening to you both. Very informative as usual. I have a burning family issue. I wish I could have a discussion with any one of you. The situation has caused some separation between sisters and brothers and nephews, which one particular niece caused a problem and everything was blown out of proportion. Speaking to some is like I'm forced to do so, and that is not like me, but the relationship that we once had is no longer there. Yeah, you can talk with one of us. Let me see. We'll arrange and we'll set up something, okay? Just remind me probably on Saturday. Yeah, remind me on Saturday. All right. Yes, exactly. And my son's dad, even though he interfered, ooh, wow, they believe that I encouraged him to do that. So it's always I'm the one that need to get out. Ooh, interesting. So wait, he is on the bandwagon too? Is he on the bandwagon as well? Get yourself out of there. Out of there. No, no, no. Get yourself out of there. That situation. No, 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 no. No, no, no. That's not healthy at all. That's not a healthy situation at all. You need to, for your personal state of mind and everything else. That's not a healthy situation. Yeah? It's not healthy. Yeah, you need peace of mind. Peace of mind is a must. Because what's going to happen over time, which I'm probably sure you're on the pathway to, is that you'll become a very edgy person. And you'll be a ticking time bomb just ready to atomize at anybody. And you don't want that for yourself. You don't want that for yourself. Yeah? That is not a healthy situation. And my best recommendation is change your arrangement of life. Yeah. All right. So I want to get into some 5 types of powerful, I would call healing words. And the first one is respectful words. Mm-hmm. These are things you want to build as part of the culture of your home, right? Husbands and wives sit down and have these conversations. These are things you want to build toward. These are things that you want to ensure that you're putting in place, that you're not letting these things slide. Whenever you recognize disrespectful words, reel them in and hold yourselves accountable for it and fix them. Yeah, fix them. Recognize their appearances and fix them. Um, Respectful words is a culture, part of your culture you want to build, um, and not allow yourselves to undermine each other. It means also choosing your words that affirm um, some your family members, your spouse's judgment and abilities. Um, Sometimes it's mentioning, I really respect the decision that you've made. Yeah, I really respect the decision. You want to practice those things, affirming words. Um, Need to affirm doesn't disappear with age. The more you live with someone, the more you have to affirm. Affirmation, it's building up. It's very, very healthy to build up your spouse and your family members. Um, for for husbands and wives, affirming your love for one another is something that you should be doing every day. Don't let days pass and um, it just be that you hardly tell one another how much you love each other and enjoy each other's space and those kinds of things. Ensure that your spouse hears you tell them that you love them every day, several times a day. Several times a day. Cherish your spouse by saying things like, you did a great job, whether it was coaching your child or how to handle a particular issue. Notice those things. You're realizing now that it would cause you to become a very thoughtful person, a very trending, considerate person, a very demure person. Right? It would cause you to be that way. Right? You also want to be building caring words. It's easy to choose or dismiss your spouse's need to talk about their day or what's going on in their life. Um, Sometimes you'd rather go on social media. Yeah, we're all guilty of it. Check emails, do whatever. Sometimes focus on your children if you have them. But we want to encourage you to sit down and give your full attention to your spouse. Yeah, give, what that was telling me. Give full attention to your spouse when they need someone to turn to. Speak caring words to them in a moment when they are weak and need to know someone is still on their side. That is something you have to reaffirm and remind yourself. Now, you're not just reaffirming it to your spouse, you have to remind yourself, hey, this is not my enemy. This is actually my ally in life. Yeah. Number 4, encouraging words. You want to ensure that you are, again, building up your spouse. Building up your spouse. Everyone needs to hear encouragement. Everyone needs to hear those words that builds them up, especially your spouse. So let's encourage them to press on when they're down, and let's inspire them with the words that we speak. And number 5, appreciative words. It's important to speak words of appreciation to your spouse. No one wants to feel taken advantage of or taken for granted. Keep your eyes open for ways to express appreciation to your spouse, to your family members. Appreciate. Let them know, I really appreciate you. Like last week, one of the things, it would cause you to become very thoughtful and considerate. Not last week, it's actually this week. On Monday, we were pushing to finish a project, and Mrs. Mahon and Anna was there, and we were working long hours to finish this project. And Mrs. Mahon's feet, she was on her feet all day, and all of us, we were on our feet. But to me, I can't take it for granted that I'm feeling I can handle it, I can push through. But when you see them pushing through and they went the extra mile and a few hours extra, I couldn't help but show the gratitude. Um, and I remember telling them, way into the hours of the morning, Tuesday morning, I really appreciate your sacrifice. And it wasn't that we were thinking about doing this topic then, but I'm bringing it up as an example. Sometimes, yes, you have to be more thoughtful and considerate, even to recognize um, when when things happen that need those appreciative words, when things happen that need those encouraging or affirmative words, and you're able to let your family, your spouse know, yeah, share those things, speak those things, let them hear it. Don't just think, well, they know that I love them. No, they're not mind readers. You have to say it with your mouth, just as we would sometimes when we get upset and we fly off the handle and it just blurts out. We have to gain control of the tongue that we have, that little muscle that has so much power. Gain control of it and use our words wisely, not to pull down, not to damage, not to destroy our relationships, but rather to build them up. Ah, all right. That's why I've told you before. I feel like I'm going crazy. It gets bad. I get bad headaches when they start with me. Yes, I'm a ticking time bomb, but I do try to hold it down. Seriously, I do. I do understand that that is the case. But if you don't have that peace of mind, it will push. It will push you. Yeah, it will push you. Rooms. I know. I know that pain. I know that pain. Um, but again, sometimes when in cases like that, you have to encourage yourself. You have to be your biggest source of encouragement when you're not getting it. Um, and I'm saying that yes, sometimes when you don't get it, you have to be your biggest source of encouragement so that you don't fall apart. That's why we're encouraging, on the other hand, um, for husbands and wives, be that encouragement, be that source of cheerleader, so to speak, for your spouse, so that you're not being that person that's taking things for granted, that you're not that person that you pay them no mind, you're not aware of the efforts or the sacrifices or the adjustments that happen. It takes a certain kind of attention to recognize shifts. But sometimes especially when it comes to negative things, you have to create distance before you see the change. In those cases, um, some of those cases, you have to create some distance between yourself and the issue, as I was mentioning before. And in cases where you have persons who are not willing to let go of an issue, create some distance between yourself and that individual, um, where it allows you and them to see the growth and development. And that's the purpose of it. It's not blotting people out, it's allowing fresh eyes on the situation. That's the purpose. Fresh eyes. And in order for that to happen, you have to create time and space between it. Oh, almost forgot. It's time for marriage devotion.
Yes, it is. The bonds of matrimony are worthless until the interest is kept up.
Mm-hmm.
A magnet has two poles. If it doesn't, it isn't a magnet. It's only a useless hunk of scrap iron. One of the greatest danger signals in a marriage is when either partner no longer feels attracted to the other. This attraction actually has very little to do with youth or sex appeal, as some might think. Attraction is based on how we define and perceive beauty, which is an inner quality, not merely a cosmetic or superficial state of prettiness or style. True beauty lies in the image of God. When we see another person as being created in God's image, we begin to see more and more facets of their being and to appreciate more and more of their beauty. The more we acknowledge the beauty of their creation, the more we are attracted to their beauty. Part of keeping the magnet working in marriage is seeing your spouse as God's creation in process. Your spouse may be influenced or encouraged by you, but ultimately your spouse is God's creation. Your spouse's beauty is rooted in what God is doing in their life.
Mhm.
The good news, you are privileged to watch your spouse's beauty unfold and to enjoy the person your spouse is becoming. Ecclesiastes 9 and verse 9 says, "Live happily with the woman you love through the fleeting days of life. For the wife God gives you is the best reward down here for all your earthly toil." The bonds of matrimony are worthless unless the interest is kept up.
I like that. I like that. And the words that you speak helps keep the interest up.
Mhm.
Yeah, you want to ensure that you are, because let's put it this way: how many times we've seen um, couples grow cold simply because it's the way that they treat one another. Nothing has physically changed, well, at least in the beginning, because some persons tend to let themselves go after a while. It's not that they let themselves go before and then the speech change. A lot of the times, how they communicate and how they treat one another faded, and then it leads to distress eating, and they no longer find the 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 drive to dress up and to look pretty and everything else because they're now depressed in the relationship. A lot of the time, the first thing to shift is the communication and how they treat one another, the kind of words that they speak to one another. So a lot of the times, look at that. Those are the signals that you want to check for first. It's those unseen things. You might hear them, but they're unseen. And you want to have that kind of awareness, that ability to be so attuned to recognizing the shifts and the fall offs when those things happen, to be able to bring them back on course. Knowing a lot of the times to knowing when to, as a couple, knowing when to take a break,
Mhm.
because the fact remains, life will life,
Life will life.
and it will like the hell out of you.
Mhm.
Right. And sometimes you have to know as a couple when to take a break, when to pull away from it all and spend some time, just retreat, pull away from everybody and everything else and spend some time together alone and reaffirm. Sometimes you have to reset some things and just come back um, refreshed, take some time away from work and everything else. Um, and for some persons, they might say, well, no, sometimes if we don't work, we don't get paid. We do. But you do have to still make, you still have to make those sacrifices and investments. So sometimes you may say, well, I like to put it like this. The time you take away, the time you take away from that job that you feel so sustained by monetarily. The days or the day that you take to spend that time with your spouse, count that as monetary value that you've invested apart from what you would have spent to do something. So you're seeing that now as actual fiscal investment that you're making in your marriage, right? And you're able to now see value, greater value in it. And I say greater value. Yes, there's value in the time that you spend together and stuff like that. But when you add, okay, well, yes, I could have made this amount of money when I worked, but I took that now and I invested it in our marriage. So you're seeing now, okay, not just time, but I also invested money, or we also invested money into our marriage. So you want to now place the value where it should be and not see that pass by and look at, well, that money we could make and and this and that and the other. No, at the end of the day, you don't want to be the person that, because your boss or the work that you do isn't going to come and stand up with you to sign your documents when things fall apart and all is separating and divorcing for irreconcilable differences, you know. The co-worker ain't going to be there unless you cheated with the co-worker, right? Which we hope isn't the case, but we don't want that to be the case. So work on the marriage. Invest in the marriage. Make sure you're putting in the right work, yeah? Put in the right work. Yes, it is. Yeah, you don't want that. Those are the situations that we create because we've been neglecting our responsibilities. Yeah, that's what. Yeah. So with just a few more minutes before the top of the hour, again, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. And I know this kind of took a very teaching kind of thing. Teaching, but also very interactive, where persons got to share very, very vivid peaks. I wouldn't even like to say peak. Peak isn't a clear view of your situations.
We appreciate your transparency.
Yes.
That's what he was trying to
Thank you
say.
so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so very much. And we look forward to doing this with you every second and fourth Thursday of the month. So join us again on the first Thursday of September. What date would that be? The
The
first Thursday in September.
first Thursday in September would be the first Thursday or second Thursday?
No, the second Thursday, sorry. Same thing.
The 12th.
Right.
September the 12th.
So join us here again on the 12th of September. I think we are finished with this topic.
Yeah, we
So
are.
we'll move on to a new topic. We'll let you know what that topic is soon. And if you joined us late or you want to pass this information on to someone else, the video will be uploaded soon. So you can just search Marriage Mentors on YouTube and you'll find us there.
Or just subscribe when you
Yes.
when you go and check out the other ones. Just subscribe.
You'll always be updated.
You'll get the alerts.
Yeah.
Turn on the notifications, that kind of thing. You know what to do. And you'll get once the videos are uploaded, you'll get the alerts with the topic and everything.
Yeah. And feel free to follow our social media pages, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. That's Love and Marriage TT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And for those of you that are desirous of counseling, you can reach out to us via email loveandmarriagett@gmail.com.
Yeah.
if we cannot facilitate the counseling right away, we can also put you on to someone else
Yeah.
that will be able to do it. So feel free. Don't stay there and go through
Suffer
the
in
thing.
silence. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. If you need help, get the help.
Because when you get the help, you'll be able to help someone else. Yeah. So join us again on the 12th. That's the 12th?
12th of
Right.
September.
12th of September. The 12th of September, you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
First one is the 5th. Second one is
Right.
the 12th.
Yes. So join us again on the 12th of September, and yeah, let's see what happens next. What our topic will be next. Again, continue to touch base with us if you're in need of any assistance in terms of relationship advice. Feel free to touch base with us when we're here. Just send us a message, send us an email, or send us a message through our social media pages. Yeah, Love and Marriage TT. So you'll find us there. So until the next one, have yourselves a wonderful one. Be safe and continue to work on yourself. Continue to work on your relationships. Continue to work on your marriage. Yeah. So until the next one, Mr. and Mrs. Mahon saying,
Ciao for now.
love you much. Ladies,
Gentlemen,
people,
courting couples,
and all our single folk,
we've got something just for you.
Marriage Mentors.
Sky 99.5 FM Reloaded is the place to be every second and fourth Thursday from 9 p.m.
To 11 p.m.
with yours truly, Mr. and Mrs. Mahon. Join the conversation as we dive deep into the taboo topics around love, marriage, and relationships. Topics like sex and intimacy,
How to live and cleave,
money,
trust issues,
infidelity,
singles in the church,
and more.
More.
So join us every second and fourth Thursday from 9 p.m.
to 11 p.m.
right here on Sky 99.5 FM Reloaded.